Yes, how you doing this morning? All is well, sir? Excuse me, sir.
Any conversation with
No, we don't want no complaints, bro. We got enough of them from everybody else.
creative facility,
You know?
facility over on the west.
Good morning, how you doing, lady? You didn't see, why you didn't see me?
I don't know.
Wow. Live and living
So
color.
they asked, is it big enough to accommodate something of yours?
You want plates on it?
No, you don't leave the town. Remember I told you my, dad went to doing the surprise thing for the.
The ultimate
forgot.
step is just an interim solution.
We out here early, Friday morning, going ahead to Destin. And they're coming from Atlanta, Tuscaloosa,
Yeah, I remember now that you're saying it.
DC.
Well, not there.
So that's the first time in 10+ years.
Have everybody.
No, she missed the parade, all this other stuff. But we won't get back to Monday afternoon sometime. We gotta go pick up Christian tomorrow evening. Tomorrow night we go to work. He works part-time in public. Yeah, St. Petersburg. Across from the campus at Next College. So I have to go pick him up, get him back over, so we gonna be on the road early Friday morning. Head to Dustin. Dustin, I pronounce Dustin.
Dustin. Hello.
Morning. Good.
But we're all here bright, smiling faces in our places.
That's right.
Just us.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
The mayor's out of town.
Oh. Right.
Where's,
One more minute, I guess, here.
Okay.
I got 8:30 here, but that's probably official 8:29.
This is the official time.
It's my time,
Yours
it's
is, what's
8:30.
it say?
Yes, 8:30.
8:30.
We have a member of the community who is coming here to make public comment,
Okay.
but we're transporting her and we're stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
So if we
Okay,
can
gotta
make
work.
public comment,
Yeah, we got, okay. That'll be
we'll let you
fine.
know when she gets in.
Yeah.
Super.
Well, good morning, everyone,
Good morning.
and Happy New Year to each one of you, and hopefully you had a good, safe, and prosperous holiday season, and good, and safe 2020, right? We call our our January 2020 LAMTD board meeting to order at this time. The first item on the agenda is the approval of December 11, 2019 LAMTD board minutes.
The approval of minutes is circulated.
Second.
Probably motion is second. Any question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. LAMTD board elections.
yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. It is the time of year where
Kick me out. Gotta go, Walker.
it is the time of year for the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District Board of Directors to hold board elections. I'm happy to announce that the county and the city have reappointed the same 5 commissioners to the LAMTD board, so there will be no changes in our 5 board members. But this is the time of year where we typically have a governance change. Currently, Commissioner Walker, you are the chair. Commissioner Hall, you are the vice chair. Commissioner McCarley, you are the secretary.
It says no board action, but that's when there is board action.
That should be an approval item.
Okay, there gotta be an approval.
Can you do it, Counselor, in one motion, or you need one for each office?
Sir, let me take a look really quick. I believe it should be a motion and then a vote on each.
Each.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And
motion.
I nominate Mr. Hall to move from vice chair to chair.
Okay, motion to move Commissioner Hall from vice chair to chair. Any
Second.
questions? Any second? All in question? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Chair,
opposed? None.
Chair, I move that Mr. Commissioner McCarley move from secretary to vice chair.
Second? I can't second, so
Oh, you can.
I can. Okay, I second that. Second that.
You can't make the motion, but you can second.
Yeah, all right.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? None. Motion carries. Commissioner McCollum moving from just vice chair. And then we need a secretary.
I move that Mr. Lindsay move from nothing to secretary.
Second.
All right, probably motion second, and Commissioner Lindsay moves to secretary. Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay, so our board elections will be closed at this time. We have moving into the president position, chair position, excuse me, I should say, Commissioner Hall, our vice chair, Commissioner McCauley, and our secretary, Commissioner Lindsay. Round of applause. I should have made this comment before at the opening up, and I said it before we officially opened up. I gave Mr. Phillips the wrong information, and I stand corrected. And I was sharing with him as I saw him in passing. I know the two of us, myself especially, Mr. McCall and I, have to get to a funeral for the fallen Lakeland police officer. And I shared with him, I thought the service is at, I don't know why I thought 11 o'clock. But that's when we need to be reporting is at 11 because of the crowd. And I think viewing goes starting that time or something. And the service, of course, will 9 to noon. So I want to make sure I stand corrected because I know you were trying to make the adjustment to accommodate our, of course, meeting today. And thinking 11, I think, because I told you that, but I was thinking I need to be getting seated and being ready to be by 11.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize. I should have started with that for the record. We did adjust per Florida Public Records law the agenda to recognize the funeral of Officer Dunn. My son goes to school directly behind the Baptist Church at the mall, and I can tell you that the parking lots are already about a quarter full as of 8 o'clock this morning. So the agenda has been reflected to have only those items that are needed for approval. To that end, the financials A, B, and C are on the agenda. Although I did instruct Mr. Prasad, we decided to leave them on the agenda. We were not going to go over them and simply leave them as informational items. So we can move directly to agenda item D if that works for the board of directors.
Yes, sir.
From board elections, treasurer.
Oh,
Typically, the secretary serves in that position as well.
Secretary Treasurer.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you'll be
I
on the
just
audit
want to
committee.
make sure as far as everybody's comfortable.
Okay. Well,
Do we need to?
we made the
No,
correction.
you do not.
That will then make Commissioner Lindsay our
Secretary Treasurer.
secretary treasurer, who will then also be our board liaison for the annual audit.
Can I revisit that motion?
Nope,
You need to stop, man.
You didn't tell me
you're
that.
stuck.
You went from nothing to something.
Yeah.
Okay, so we make sure we stay corrected on that particular position. Let it reflect, of course, in our minutes.
Yes, sir.
Secretary Treasurer for Commissioner George Lindsay.
So, Mr. Chairman, if we moved on to 4D, E, and F, we could then move to public comment thereafter if you would like.
Okay. All right, we're looking at number 4, D, E, and F. Taking, of course, approval for each one of those from Mr. Prasad. Upgrade of trapeze and Trips Park software.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Morning.
We are presenting an agreement to upgrade our trapeze, which provide scheduling for the paratransit services and update some of the equipment. The bottom line is that the current agreement over a 5-year period is about $348,000. The new revised agreement will be approximately $213,000. The cost of the new equipment is $56,000. So we're looking at net savings of $156,000 over the next 5 years.
Wow.
This will upgrade the system.
Okay, so we have what we said, net savings of $156,712
Yes.
in a 5-year period.
Great.
Yeah, savings is good all the time. Okay, we have a
I move for approval of staff recommendation.
Second.
probably motion second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and opposed, none. Seeing none, we move right along to the next one, sir.
The next agenda item is to recommend approval of a new bank for banking services, Bank of Central Florida. Our current agreement with Wells Fargo is expired and we issued a competitive bid. And we are going to save approximately 50% on the cost of banking services with this new agreement over a 5-year period. On the attachment, we show the top 3 banks that were narrowed on the short list: Bank of Central Florida, Wells Fargo, and Center State Bank.
Mhm.
This bank has the lowest cost based on the technical and the financial evaluation.
Okay, need a motion.
Move approval, staff recommendation.
Second.
On the motion is second, recommendation for banking services, the Bank of Central Florida. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Of course, the next one is 4F, parking right grant.
The next item is to approve a grant application to the FDOT for a capital grant totaling $123,000. That's to provide for restrooms at the park and ride. We're currently leasing those restrooms, and the county's obligation, the district obligation will be $61,500, which we can take from the vehicle replacement capital, and the grant will provide 50% of $61,000, and we can be saving almost $2,000 a month on lease costs.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, for the record, this will be what we call Phase 3 of the Gal Fields Park and Ride Lot project. Phase 1 was the construction that you have seen to date with the one shelter and physical building. Phase 2 will be the addition of 2 shelters. I confirm that Mr. Didar are on order and should be delivered this week. And then Phase 3 will be the installation of the permanent restrooms, which will allow us to get rid of the portables. And I'd like to thank the city of Lakeland, because they have been gracious enough to work with us on having those portable restrooms for as long as we have. That's not something that they'd like to see typically, but they work with us on that. So this will really complete that park and ride lot, and our funding partners at DOT have helped us do that in phases.
And if I can share too, because I'm in and out that area almost daily because of my location where I live and that kind of thing, and travel that particular route so often, I can tell you the use of that parking lot facility has increased. And, I guess, and also having Megabus coming into the facility as well, you see quite a bit of traffic now. You're seeing the traffic picking up and the use of the facility being where we want it to be as being a park and ride facility. And now with, with additional shelter coming in and the permanent restrooms, as well as the water fountain, I understand, will be there as well.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's the plan. Yeah, there'll be a water fountain.
There will be a water fountain. Okay, I thought that was the initial plan. We talked about it some time back. So, okay.
And Mr. Chairman, interestingly, a Lynx pool van parks at our park and ride lot every day. Not sure where they go, but it's definitely a group of Polk County residents who work in the Lynx service area and have a pool van that they keep there.
Okay. Any motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Probably motion is second. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay, now we move on back to public comments. I think we have someone who want to share with us for the public this morning. So we can have her come and share the time. Yes, if you will come up to the podium where the flags are, please, ma'am, and share with us accordingly. Over to the podium there. Right there where the flags are, yes.
Mine is not so good, so excuse me. I live in Lincoln Taylor, Lincoln Center community, and I am alone, and I don't drive, so I use bus many times for everything, for everything. And in Lincoln Center, I have any bus station, and we have bus station, we get right from Legoland, and we go left for the Cypress Garden Road. So from my house up to the gate of my community, it takes about 25 minutes in the days, and more than 20 minutes for the Legoland station. So about 1 hour I have to walk to go to the station, Legoland station, for going everywhere that I want to do. That's my problem, and I want to, if it's possible, install on the bus station in the near the gate of my house.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming to share with us about your situation, of course, especially so, and the need, as we probably always oftentimes hear about transit services and making sure we can get all of us around this big county, connected as best we can. Anyone have any comments on Mr. Lindsay?
Can you pull up on that screen, Google Earth, to
Yes,
show the geography of where she is and what she's asking for?
Yes, sir.
And if I heard correctly, 'cause I got this in my ear, and sometimes it's difficult to hear with the system here. But if I heard you correct, it was Gardens Boulevard. It's close to where you say you have to go to the nearest bus.
She's in Winterset,
Yeah.
has to walk.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, if I may, we've got Aaron Dunn, our Director of Operations here. Mr. Dunn does have it queued up on the screen, and he can talk a little bit about this particular
Okay.
issue. And we do have a couple of possible resolutions.
All right.
Essentially what she's talking about, this is the Reflections neighborhood, Winterset is right adjacent to it. She's walking to the bus stop here just after Cypress Gardens Road.
Okay. Process it.
There's a gap where there's no route, so putting a stop there would really not solve the solution. There's no route running along there, it comes down Cypress Gardens Road,
Mm-hmm.
back with Cypress Gardens Boulevard.
I got you.
James, if you can pull up the next tab, the brochure, a pictorial of the area we're talking about, Cypress Gardens Boulevard runs kind of this way,
Mm-hmm.
along this dark colored shaded line here. The route comes up and comes back down Cypress Gardens Boulevard. She lives near where the cursor is.
I got you.
So putting a stop in there, really the request is to move service along Cypress Gardens Boulevard in that area. The challenge that we'll have with doing that is there's no southbound roads before Lake Dexter. Go back to the map, please, James. If James could scroll out one click, please, James. There you go. As you move west, you can see, continue to drag the mouse this way. There's no road that meets back up.
Hmm.
Continue until this area. This is where the route continuously goes up. So in order to stay down on Cypress Gardens Boulevard, we'd have to remove service from either the entire area, or we'd have to add a significant amount of transit resources to keep our frequency and service this new area. So the outreach team, Delicia and Milvia, have been meeting with the citizen to connect her to the Transportation Advantage program as well as our ADA service. But we knew that her voice wanted to be heard. She represents many other people in your neighborhood and community that do the same thing. So she wanted to make it.
They have a really big community. The lady saw that we have many apartments and houses in the I think more than 200 apartments and many people there, and mostly have like the old
So Commissioners, what we can do, one of the possible solutions that we can do, James, can you bring back up her picture of her community? Thank you. Thank you. As you're aware, the Americans with Disability Act requires that we provide complimentary paratransit door-to-door service for individuals who are not able to make it to a bus stop within 3/4 of a mile. We're required to do that. I'm happy to announce that this community and all of her residents are within that geographic bubble. So they are eligible for door-to-door paratransit services. So we can send our team down to meet with folks and get them registered for either ADA or transportation disadvantage depending on their needs. I know that's less than ideal because it does not put a bus stop directly out in front of their residence. However, because they're in that geographic area, they are eligible for ADA services. And unfortunately, being within that 3/4 of a mile bubble is what the federal government says is a acceptable walking distance. So while putting fixed route resources there at this time doesn't really make any sense without making major changes to the greater community, we can get them ADA and TD services.
So you support them
that will support them in that particular direction. It should also be noted that Cypress Gardens Boulevard is currently the only transit line in all of Polk County that has 7-day-a-week transit service. So because legally funded. So they would be eligible for 7-day-a-week paratransit services that go along with that.
So how would you take advantage of this situation?
That will be Delicia and her team. Delicia?
And I did speak to her en route coming here. She's outside of the ADA coverage, but she's within the parameters for transportation disadvantage. She did not complete the application for ADA because she states that she doesn't have a disability. When I explained to her through the transportation disadvantage program, she is transportation disadvantaged, so she does qualify for that, and she's okay with that, but she still wanted to come out.
Sure.
And this is definitely something that we can put into our work plan, discuss with Mr. Herr and the Winter Haven City Commission and the County Commission to see what we can do in the future as this area continues to grow.
Yeah, because I heard her say there's over, if I heard you or someone said there's over 300 some odd units. Apartment units. Yeah,
It has been.
yeah.
It's not new.
I used to own a condo there and it is.
It's massive.
Okay.
Is it within city limits?
Yes.
Is it?
Okay, so that's something again, we can address with the city commissioner, city manager of Winter Haven, and
Yes, I will meet with Ms. Kilbrun. I'll bring that to the attention of Mike Herr and the City Commission. And in the meantime, Delicia and her team will work
with her.
not only with this resident, but with the community as a whole, making them aware of what services we're getting.
You have a route specific map and a corresponding dollar amount that would require funding.
We will have Rodney design that before we
Okay.
meet with Mr. Herr.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good to make sure they know the
And that
cost.
would be, for the record, that would be outside of the fair share agreement. That would be a full
Embellished.
cost per allocated hour to the Winter Haven City Commission.
Right, exactly. All right, any other comments for our guest or anything else you want to share? Well, thank you again, ma'am, for coming, and know that people, staff will be working with you and other residents about the situation, okay? All righty. All right, back to our agenda here. I think we have down to number 5, is that correct? Legal,
Yes.
got Lincoln XF decision.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Morning.
The only issue that we have, or any issue for approval, is again a petition for annexation within the district. It's very simple. The resolution will be forthcoming once this is approved, but it is for, and this is where Chuck could help me as far as location, if you want to, but Lakeland XF LLC is the company name. The address is,
It's,
Mr. Ballmer, could you,
it's an 8,000 block of State Road 33, so it's immediately, it's on the south side of State Road 33, before the interstate. So if you travel towards Orlando past Fort Poly, you can see the warehouse in construction now. It's about 537,000 square feet. This is, of course, the busy State Road 33 corridor between Lakeland and Fort City. The request would be to annex the site, the entire site, into the transit district. As part of the construction and part of the currency requirements for that development. They're also putting in a transit stop on State Road 33 as for future transit service, internal sidewalk system, make everything ADA compliant, bike parking. So everything's being set up for future transit service available. We're going to have a few more transit petitions for the coming to the board for other developments like the State Road 32 corridor. So this is the first of a couple more that you'll be seeing, or 3 more that you'll be seeing in this area. So as it transitions to light industrial warehousing, we want to try and set it up. So
and of course, we don't have the resolution now, but we'll be forthcoming, I hear you correct?
correct. If you accept the petition, then the resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
For similar requests, can we ask that a locator map be included with the
To help us
application?
see,
So that
I
at least we
agree.
know.
what we're
What we're
looking at.
talking about.
Yes, sir.
Duly noted. Okay, any other comments or questions? We need a motion to approve.
Move approval of the staff recommendation.
Second.
Probably motion is second, seeing no questions or comments coming forth, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay. Now, I should ask the question, I'm sorry, but if I can. Have I heard you correct, Mr. Baldy? You said we should be getting two other different additional situations coming before us as well as this one?
Yes, sir. And what we'll do is we'll put together a map that shows this site and the other two. One is across the street, so the old Dragster property. It's being developed right now, 710,000 square feet of warehouse space, 300,000. That was part of that, which was recently annexed into the city limits of Lakeland. We also have property that butts, kind of really butts the city limit line, September 33, the schedule. It's right now owned by the Rubens, being transitioned over to permanent investments, but that's scheduled for about 1.5 minutes per feet of warehouse. It's about 130 acre tract of property. That will be coming before as a future annexation petition as well. Site plan is under review and probably will be approved next 30 days. For those developments along the 33 corridor, we'll also require execute a memorandum of understanding for the currency. So what they're also doing is annexing into the transit district or petitioning to annex into the district. Then it's kind of we will be applying their impact fees to the 33 corridor around next 30 days, which has been a big problem for us.
Right.
So there's several things we're trying to mark off for these new developments that are coming into that corridor.
And that, Mr. Chairman, puts us right back in Polly's backyard.
Right.
Which then the mayor has talked to Dr. Avent about
The transportation situation?
the transportation situation out there and partnering back with us. So I want to thank Chuck and the team, but it's amazing when you drive down 33, all these parks are now coming together to really link the, I believe it's called the Innovation District.
Right.
That's there.
Right.
What,
That's all?
what is going to be constructed on these parcels, on these two parcels?
Right.
For all three,
Distribution.
it's high-Q cross-dock warehouse type facilities. So right now, we don't have any indications specifically on these three, but they are under construction or going through the permitting process. So it's really spec type development, but things in this corridor have been leasing up pretty rapidly.
And the specific location again?
Or if there's a way we can bring up the map, I can just kind of.
Everything more.
33 in the Parkway.
Yeah, Parkway. Yeah. Right there where the construction's already going on with warehousing there already.
What's up?
Zoom in.
North of Oswald.
So the one that the board just took action on is about 60 acres in this area that's owned by Lakeland XF.
It's south of the interstate.
North of the
North of the
interstate.
interstate. North, everything is north.
Which is just basically a inverse alley.
Okay.
The Dragster property is north of State Road 33, 33 Norfolk City Road. This area here. And then the Ruthven property is scheduled for 1.5 million square feet of warehouse. It's right in this area here. So combined, we're right around 2.7 million square feet of warehouse in this area, in addition to the old USA Speedway site. And development is actually occurring within the town of Polk City. Best Buy warehouse and about another 500,000 square feet within the town of Polk City, just north of this corridor. So in addition to trying to set the corridor up for transit service, that also helps explain everybody's angst about exit 38 down here at I-4, which backs up onto the interstate pretty regularly during the.
Yeah, pretty regularly in the morning,
It's mixed vehicles now, 8 minutes off the interstate on State Road 33 at this location.
And you have to floor it.
Well, I know we've had some lengthy discussion of those of the Senate TPO board, about that 38, exit 30 exit there, 33. How it just backs up daily because of all that particular situation that's going on, and it's going to increase as the approvals come forward and things comes out of the ground. So hopefully we get some support from the situation regarding that particular interchange there. Right? We all know it. We've been preaching it. Okay.
The only other item I have is to introduce one of our interns. She's a junior at Florida Southern.
Okay.
Interested. She's in the pre-law program, and she has to put up with me like every day. But this is Emma Gallagher. So,
Welcome, Emma. Keep smiling, because I know putting up with him could be something.
That puts you in the
Just
honors
fake it.
program.
Yes, yes. And, okay, we had a motion. Did we go through the approval of it? I think we did.
Yes.
We were just talking about the
Okay.
second ones.
All right. All right. Number 6, purchase of a 12-passenger van, Mr. Cheney.
Yes, Mr. Cheney needed a work from home day, so I'm gonna
I didn't see
like
it.
Joe today. But I will be more brief than Joe. So we are requesting approval of
We'll see.
one 2020 Chevy Express 12-passenger van to come out of the capital budget at $25,890. As we have increased our service and have had a midday lull with our new routing structure, we have operators who are parking here during the day and then are reporting to the Lakeland terminal and working at the Lakeland terminal, and then have a large unpaid break. And we are currently using our administrative vehicles to porter them back and forth. And if an operator chooses to stay downtown for that shift, then the vehicle's not coming back here. And so we're requesting a 12-passenger van, which will be a much more effective way for us to be able to move our employees on their unpaid breaks back here to be able to get their cars and move them en masse. It should also be noted that Ms. Cheney is outfitting the vehicle with strobe lights. So in an emergency or other uses, we'll be able to transport ambulatory passengers in a paratransit fashion. Although this will not have a lift because it's not needed, we can use it in revenue service as long as we have lift equipped vehicles.
So, any questions? No, I got questions. So at this present time, that we have no particular kind of shuttle,
We have a shuttle
Vehicle that
schedule.
can help
We have a
us.
shuttle schedule that uses our current administrative fleet if and when it's available. And so that vehicle goes back and forth. But again, if something goes wrong, a supervisor needs it, there's an accident, we're just not having the vehicle availability that we need. And I didn't see it as coming forward to the board and asking for another sedan because we need to move large groups of people. So let's go with more of a 12-passenger type van that we can transport groups for. And then when we have things like the Florida Public Transportation Association annual conference or others, we can transport people in mass as well.
yes, ma'am.
Could you also use it for storm, if
Absolutely.
there's evacuation or anything like that? It can be flex use.
Yes.
Okay.
It does not have to, Commissioner, be ADA
Right.
accessible to use in revenue service. We have to have ADA accessible vehicles, so we're covered on that.
Right.
But yes, we could use it for any revenue service. So if you think of the paratransit, the smaller enter vans that were here, that we will never purchase again, the small vans that have the lifts, those are actually right now being used by supervisors in the supervisory capacity for LAMTD service and countywide service. But they're able to do paratransit trips when needed. And then, of course, we have the backstop with Jane and with AFI for hurricanes as well.
And this cannot be used, is it only to be used for the staff situations only?
No, it can be, because it's being outfitted with
Does that make-
strobes, we can use it for revenue service as well.
Okay.
As you are aware, we do not
Flex
collect cash fares on paratransit. So there's no need to have a fare box because we collect paper ticketing. Although thanks to Mr. Mealy and his testing, we'll soon be able to do a veil as well.
And the cost because of the capital budget.
Yes, sir.
Move that recommendation.
Second.
Probably motion second to approve the purchase of the 12-passenger van. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Say none. Right along. Okay. Where are we here? Okay. Yes, we are. Mr. Human Resources.
Commissioners, good morning.
Yes, sir.
I'm here today to request that you consider approving level 2 background checks for to be covered, those costs be covered by the agencies requiring us to do these level 2 background checks for paratransit drivers. Less than a year ago, I was here and recommending that we discontinue doing level 2 background.
I was gonna say, yeah, I thought we said.
Pardon me?
No, I was gonna say, I thought we had discussed this.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we had, and there was a reason for that, that we were discontinued. First, we were doing level 2 background checks on everybody. Okay, it didn't matter if you were a finance person, bus driver, somebody, a cleaning person, you did them across the board. These had a high cost attached to them, and it was, when we looked at it and reviewed it, we were having failing software, and we were paying an awful lot of money for an unnecessary process, background check. We actually replaced it at half the cost with a national criminal records background check. We get better information. We still do national sex offender checks, county checks. We were doing verifications of driver's licenses. So we saved a tremendous amount of money. Part of the problem that we're experiencing now is, even though we are legally correct in our interpretation of the law, our funding agencies require that our paratransit drivers have a level 2 background check. I've included the legal review. I've asked that to be done by Olympic Court. They reviewed the law. They agreed that our drivers are no different than many other people, and they don't require a level 2 background check. The downside to this is our funders, actually our agencies that we support, the funders are requiring it. And so at the end of the day, when you look at our mission statement, we're doing a disservice by being legally right and not doing the level 2 background check. My proposal is that we be allowed to do those level 2 background checks for those required paratransit drivers. Costs would be then negotiated back against those agencies that require it, so therefore it would be budget neutral for the costs for us to do that.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Funding agencies is a euphemism for the states and feds. So what makes you think they're gonna pay for it?
Well,
Excuse me, I need a question, I'm sorry, George. You turned.
The funding agencies are the state and the feds.
Mhm.
And the suggestion is the state and the feds provide the grants to pay for these additional background checks. So my question is, what makes you think they're gonna pay for it?
That's a very good question. What we've done is, with these agencies that we provide direct services to, we're charging them the bare minimum, charging them $1.50 for a one-way ride. Therefore, what I'm suggesting is you add 2 cents to that fare, so that it.
So it's the users you're gonna add the charge to, not the funding.
Well, it wouldn't be the riders. It's the agencies are the ones paying for that person to ride the bus.
Right. Billing.
Mid-Florida is a great example.
Yeah. Right.
So Mid-Florida is the provider that took over senior nutrition
Right.
when the county put the RFP out. Mid-Florida pays for its riders to be able to get to and from the senior nutrition sites. They have us do the trips that
Right.
Jane Hammond and Elder Point cannot. So rather than charging Mid-Florida just for the fare, we will include our rate. Our rate model will now include this in it, so they will have to pay. Because their Department of Elder Affairs money that they're getting
Mhm.
requires the level 2 FBI background check. And even though we're doing more, the bureaucracy states we have to do the level 2. So Mid-Florida will bear the cost. If we do trips for Elder Point, it would bear the cost. Alliance for Independence. Thankfully, most of these organizations do their own transportation, but for those that contract with us, we'll pass that cost through in our rate. Is that an accurate statement?
This is the first thing we need to know, but the rate model is already designed, so we already have our price for the rate model for this
Right.
a year. In terms of what Steve is actually negotiating, I don't know, we have to consider the increase in rate model, but it would not just be for Mid-Florida. If we increase the rate model, it would be for any agency, and also the public. And
That's the new service contract.
That's in what is provided service, yeah.
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 The cost of
Unfunded mandates.
$5,000.
Yeah.
The cost is about $5,000.
I see a $5,000 cost there.
That would be a continuing cost.
Something required for us to do, but no money to help support it.
It is, so Mr. Shively has attempted on behalf of the organization to make the argument that we go above and beyond, but the Department of Elder Affairs wants the level 2 checks.
Right.
Our only other choice as an agency is to tell these organizations that we will not do the level 2 background checks and that we won't be able to do the transportation for them. Unfunded mandate.
Move that recommendation.
Second.
Probably more second, any more comments or questions about the situation? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, stands approved. And I think we've done everything, I imagine,
Other business.
Yes.
other business.
And I have something on that. I'm sure that if you read the ledger yesterday or listened to the news last night, you got at least a little bit of that. Some time ago, I don't really remember exactly when, I had asked Tom, based on the things that are happening to transit drivers, and especially in Hillsborough, where a transit driver lost his life, and then that was back in May, and then in November, another one was attacked with a box cutter, to explore the possibility of our drivers using non-lethal protective measures, i.e. pepper spray or mace or something along those lines, and see if it would be available for the drivers, and see what we would need to do to implement that. So, Tom, at that, I'll just turn it over to you and let you tell us what you have found, and then we can open this for discussion with the board.
Yes, sir. So we have Bill Canarium, our Director of Safety and Security here as well, who can add to this conversation, as well as Mr. Darby and others, and Steve from an insurance perspective. So at Commissioner Hall's urging, we did some exploratory research. You have at your tables the weapons and the firearms and weapons in the workplace policy that's been adopted by the board. This policy has not changed in the 8 years that I have been here. And you can read that policy. I know Mr. Darby's had a chance to review it. But the policy specifically prohibits employees from carrying firearms while on duty, and are prohibited from carrying firearms in the Citrus Connection property or contracted property, to include facilities, bus shelters, bus stops, etc. And you can read the rest of it. It does not mention non-lethals in any way. Mr. Shibley checked with the Florida League of Cities, and there is nothing in our league policy that prohibits the drivers from carrying non-lethals. There's nothing in the FTA regulations that prohibit drivers from carrying non-lethals. I have asked the question of FDOT, and I'm pending an answer from FDOT, but I do not believe at this point, and that DOT needs to come back, that there's anything in our DOT funding that prevents that from occurring. Additionally, in researching this issue, and as was reported by the news last night, the Florida legislature has a bill that is to be considered that will increase the penalties for assaulting a bus driver and put it on par with assaulting a police officer or fireman or EMS. There is also a rider in that bill that would mandate that public transit agencies install the driver shields on all the vehicles.
Okay.
It does not mention if that will be funded or not.
Yeah.
And
What do you think?
so with the ledger here, I don't think anything. I'm going to report on the bill. So that is where we stand as of today with the research that we've done. Bill, anything to add?
So at this point, is there any action that the board needs to take if it's not covered in our policy already? If it's not an exclusion, do we need to make it an inclusion that they can?
If it is silent, then it is permissive.
That's right.
That's what I'm
thinking this out, you can take
And so then it would be an administrative determination on whether or not they could.
There's no determination, at all.
No, yeah, I do it.
Good.
Right.
Good.
I take it out, I can use it if I want to use it, not use it. I have it.
And that's their personal right
Yeah.
to protect themselves as a member of the public or as an employee of the district.
And I see it as more than just protecting themselves, because if something happens to one of our customers, one of the people that's traveling on our buses, would we rather have someone there that had a non-lethal method to stop and attack customer to customer? So, and I would think yes. And so if there's no action necessary, then I would say that we just let the administration handle it as.
I'll continue to research it. I mean, I've pulled up the concealed carry. As far as the only thing that I could see was a tear gas gun, and there are very specific sizes and requirements there, which does include pepper spray or mace. And then as far as concealed carry, any governing body, meeting, public school district, municipality, or special district, which is included in that too. So any gun, if you have a CC, concealed carry, as I do, excuse me, it cannot be in this building at this point. So I like the direction that is. I'll continue to research it, and if I find something else, then.
So no additional actions required.
Well, I didn't think it was, because I know when I first saw it and read it myself personally, I'm just speaking for Philip, of course. I thought, well, I'm gonna do whatever I can to protect myself. And it was, as long as I'm in legal bounds. And if I'm employed, anywhere I'm employed, I'm gonna make sure I still protect myself. And if there's nothing that preclude me from being able to carry it, I see no action need to be done.
Well,
That was my concern.
I bring it forward for clarification.
Yeah, I got you.
And
I got you.
So
I
board
mean-
direction would be to clarify and define for next
and the
month's
only-
meeting.
And the only thing that I think is outstanding at this point in time is FDOT.
Correct.
Is that
Yes,
correct?
correct.
So.
I specifically asked FDOT if there was anything in our joint participation agreements that prohibit the use of non-lethals.
Yeah.
Their response was, before discussing this further, we would like to see what training you're going to perform. With all due respect, that's not the question I asked. So I'll go back to them after, I told them I'd follow up after the board meeting, and the question still stands. I do not believe that there is, because we just underwent an FDOT triennial review that reviewed our policies and procedures, including the weapons policy, and this was not brought up. And it was a very thorough triennial review, but we will get the answer from FDOT before clarifying with our employees.
And I think that the board is on board with this. I don't think there's any issues.
It doesn't sound like there needs to be a policy.
No.
It sounds like it's
No.
deference to the driver. Right,
Yeah,
so just to clarify that.
It's
And
too,
the only other thing I would say, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but no policy, but if you elect within your employment to carry that on you, which you're legally allowed to do, please let us know, and we can know that you're carrying, and if you have training, then let us know. But at least let us know that you're a bus driver and you're carrying the
Pepper spray or mace.
whatever.
Non-lethal.
Right.
You're putting us on notice, you're invoking your right.
yes,
Yes.
And what you can do, what you should be able to do.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But I would like that. It's not a policy.
No.
They don't have to sign it. But if they don't, and then it's misused, then we've got other issues.
So the only policy that could possibly be required right now is the fact that they notify us that they have it. Is that what you're saying?
Perhaps, I mean, we could look with.
I see that as a procedure, not a policy. If it's a
Correct.
procedure,
No,
the board
it's not,
sets,
it's not a
the
requirement.
board sets
Right.
policy, staff sets procedure.
Right.
The procedure would be,
Let
please
us know.
If so,
notify us.
then,
Please let us know.
Yeah.
Please let Human Resources and Safety and Security know,
and if you don't, then you've opened yourself up to.
and that's it. It's just a procedure.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Manning?
On a related matter that he just raised, pending legislation that again, unfunded mandates regarding shield on every vehicle, paratransit, everything else, regardless of need or threat. Is there a companion bill in the other house? Is it in the house
I
on
will
it?
find out.
Because I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen anything.
I haven't seen it.
If it elevates to a companion bill and begins to get legs, let's review the full text of the bill. And we can support that part that adds additional protection to the drivers, but take issue with the part that provides unfunded mandate. So
Certainly.
just keep us posted on if it gets legs and any other legislation.
And we're gonna be up there shortly.
Yes,
So,
as will we.
As all of us.
Yes, and we are members of the Florida Public Transportation Association, and they have a legislative group of which Ms. Killebrew is part. So we'll make sure that we work with our partners at FPTA to monitor that, because if it does come out as an unfunded mandate, with where we are in our fleet replacement, we do not have a homogeneous fleet. So installing driver shields on our vehicles is going to be a one-off process. It can be extremely expensive. Also, and our entire team is unclear if the driver shields in Hillsborough and Pinellas include paratransit vehicles, because to date, they've only talked about fixed route. And again, for communities like Polk, where we don't have the population density, over half of our fleet is paratransit vehicles. And if this legislation is not going to cover that, then the vast majority of our drivers are still unprotected.
Yeah.
And I won't even get into the customer service issues that come up with the shields and some of the other issues as well. Shields aren't a bad thing. They come with other issues.
Well,
Okay.
thank you
Yeah,
to the
thank
board
you.
for allowing me to bring that
Yes, sir.
forward. And thank
Yes,
you, Tom,
sir.
For the research.
Yes, sir.
Information, all right.
I'll move forward with your direction and research. To
All right, thank you, Judge.
Anything else from the board before we have our exec sharing, what you might want to share? Anything from the board members?
I just want to thank the chairman for his leadership for the last 2 years.
Well, thank you for allowing me to sit here for not being kicked out. It's still good to change chairs for those here, you know?
Mr. Chairman, there was much on the agenda that we wanted to cover, but that is not important today. So I just wanted to make a few comments about what we'll discuss next month, and some things. First off, I wanted to thank you all and the team for allowing me the time off and the levity with my schedule. I had a heart attack on November 4th, and I want to thank you all. The team knows I'm still doing cardiac rehab 3 days a week. I'm using sick time for that, but I am in and out of the office, and I'd just like to thank everybody for supporting me in that. It's good to be back. I also wanted to remind the board that we did add back 2 service holidays a few years ago, but Martin Luther King Day is not one of them. So while we've got the ledger here, Monday will be a holiday for the transit
No
system.
service, yes.
You may receive phone calls. I'd like to thank Dave. He's tweeting, he's social mediaing, he's Facebooking, but you may receive calls about that. We provide the best service we can within the budgeted means. I am working with Steve and David on some budgetary neutral reorganizations and looking at a few departments and possibly reorging a few positions. It will not require board approval because it's budgetarily neutral, but wanted to make you aware of that. And then finally, very, very briefly, we did meet with Metro Bench, the provider of benches to both the city of Lakeland and the county. The county has a contract going back to 1984. The city has one going back to the early 90s. And I'll be reporting on that next month and may provide you some information. But a lot of discussions regarding benches in Polk County coming up.
See if you can ascertain how much they owe us.
Yes, sir.
At this point.
Understood. The contract with what the chairman is alluding to is there was a understanding that the contract for Metro Bench with the city of Lakeland was a revenue sharing agreement with the J.C.'s, and when the J.C.'s went away, that it was with what is now the Junior League of Greater Lakeland, Girls Inc., and they have not seen a dime. They receive a advertising revenue credit. With the county, it was the J.C.'s, and then it was changed in 2013 to the Polk Education Alliance. To our knowledge, they have not seen any revenues as well
They're assigning the value
of the
the
advertising.
advertising
Time.
as an offset.
So Commissioner, the Chairman Hall has asked that we calculate for both the city and the county, what were these agencies owed over the life of the contract? And I will just, again, report extremely briefly, Metro Bench is willing to enter into a straight revenue sharing agreement in the future, but you've asked about the past. So stay tuned for that.
Question, strategic planning date, have we set a date, time yet?
We have communicated with the county staff, and thank you. We have the name of your administrator. James, have we heard from Circle B yet on dates? We're good. Okay. We will get you a selection of dates and times forthcoming. We just need to make sure the facilitator's available.
Okay, all right, so we got that coming forward.
Yes, sir. And
All right.
I'll stop there for this meeting.
Any other concerns, anything coming forward? Seeing no motion to approve, motion to dismiss? Motion second, we are dismissed. Thank you.
What is this?
That's the 33.
Oh, this is a 33?
Yeah, I think.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
did you get it cranked up here, brother?
What is it?
Oh, yeah. I picked up my paperwork. I'll have it in there.
Yeah, I got you.
It's time to go,
Yeah, this is-
time to make it move.
Well, we need to hear from the facilitator.
You better.
Yeah, of course. Sure.
I'm just gonna.
And your bills are here.
Okay.
You know, yeah. Yeah.